Hello. Hi. Hi. How are you? Hello there. Hi. What is it? What is it, buddy? Is it time to go? It's almost time. It's almost time. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's do this. Hello, everybody. Hi, it's me, Jennifer from Little Metal Foxes, and I just wanted to say hello and welcome. A very excited dog right here. He is having a good time. So, anyway, oh my God. Okay, go lay down. I gotta talk about stuff. All right. So, here we go. So, welcome, everybody. Hello. I've got, just wanted to say, there we go. Hello and welcome. So, I wanted to show you guys, we've got some Tumblr talk tonight that I wanted to share with you. I was over at a friend's today and we were working on trying to figure out what was going to be the best tumbler to finish her pieces with. And if you, and I hope you all are familiar with Rotary Talcott. She is a brilliant metalsmith and goldsmith. She has, comes from a long line, has a family history in the jewelry industry here in the Pacific Northwest, and does spectacular jewelry. And some of the stuff, one of the pieces she was working on is a Norwegian brooch that is just beyond words. And if you check out her Instagram, you can see Lori's progression of the brooch that she's working on. It's a lot of filigree. It's very large. It's about 4 inches across. And she was gold plating it while I was over there. So what was really fascinating about it is that once she gold plates it, she will tumble it. We were trying to figure out tumbler wise what shot we had that tumbler was best. But she wanted me to sort of share some information about tumblers and what worked and why. So so I thought I would share that information with you tonight. I've got a couple of tumblers here in my own studio that I use for different things. The one that I've had the longest is my Vibratory Tumbler. It's this one. And Vibratory Tumblers are just a really simple beaker. And I don't even know that beaker is still in business, but they were in the jewelry industry for a long time with all kinds of different tools and equipment for jewelry. The basic tumblers like this are not too terribly expensive. They work a little bit quicker than the rotary tumblers do, which do really cool stuff as far as like, well, hi, hello, as far as vibrating all the pieces on the inside, the media that's on the inside, versus rolling it around like a rock tumbler style rotary tumbler does. Rotary tumblers are really very effective. They are not too terribly expensive. They are a little bit slower, but they're great with steel shot because they can burnish a piece really smoothly and slowly, giving it a little bit more of a planished sort of finish. And it works great with for all kinds of different finishes. You can put put rocks in it if you want to get sort of a blue jean denim-y sort of finish, or you can put stuff like steel shot in it to get a nice polished finish with a little bit of soap and water. They work great and they're very effective and have been used in the jewelry studio for a long time. You can spend a lot of money on those if you want something bigger and faster, but your basic rock tumbler style barrel rotary tumbler works great. So for that kind of tumbler, if you're going to put steel shot in it, the steel shot that I've got here is a mixed shot, which I like a lot. And if you're going to put steel shot in your tumbler, I would recommend getting a mix like this one. I've got their little pointy bits, they're little ball shapes that are kind of odd shaped, and they're these little flying saucer shaped ones that are kind of cool. The nice thing about having mixed shot is that it gets into every nook and cranny. So whether you're using this in rotary tumbler and having it just sort of fall and tumble and burnish the pieces, it works really well to do that surface bit, and the different shapes can help sort of get into the nooks and crannies. And because it's sort of rotary rolling around, the media kind of stays on the bottom and just sort of rolls over and over and over again. So the pieces sort of crawl up the wall and continue to sort of tumble over. So this can be a really great way to do that. Like I said, I've been using my vibratory tumbler for a very long time, and this I will use with all kinds of different media. I will use the steel shot in it, and it just vibrates everything a little more, I think a little more gently, but faster than the rotary tumblers will. So where the rotary tumblers are sort of rolling along this way, this is sort of jiggles it. And you want to have enough burnishing compound. You can use this with dry media to polish, like corn cob and walnut shell and things like that would work great for polishing pieces in here. But I usually use this with wet with my steel shot. And I also will use it with my other media, which is a plastic or ceramic media, works in really well. And like I said, mine is a dry tumbler, but I do add water to it. And by dry, I mean it doesn't have a flow through. So some of the tumblers have a port where water drips in, and then it has a port where water comes out. And that is usually a filter system, and you can sort of filter the debris that's coming out of this. That way you're not like rubbing it into your surface. But what happens is I've got some blue cones in here, little pyramids in here. And this is a medium to fine sort of polish for most of my stuff. So this is kind of a pre-polish before I put it into either hand finishing or hand polishing. It's usually what I'm doing if I'm using this one. But I can take this out, change it to the steel shot, and then use it as a burnishing media as well. But a lot of people like to use little porcelain balls. That makes a fantastic, oh, hello there, makes a fantastic polish on the surface. And with this one, I just have to make sure that I'm rinsing out my media when I'm done with it, make sure that I'm cleaning it really well, and I'll usually let it dry so that I'm not closing this in with a bunch of moist material. I'll do the same thing with the steel shot. Always make sure I rinse it, let it dry out before I store it, so that it doesn't get rusty and nasty. So with these, what would take a rotary tumbler probably a couple of days, this can do in a couple of hours because it's that much faster. And it's just, yeah, this is a really efficient, very small one, so was not too terribly expensive. This is going to be a little more expensive than most of your rotary tumblers. It's sort of a next step up. Some of the nicer rotary tumblers are going to cost about what this does. This is more of an economy version of some of those. And you can get economy versions of this kind of polisher at places like Harbor Freight. If you need an economy one and want to try it out, this works great. You can also get rock tumblers at Harbor Freight, for not a whole lot of money, and try those out with steel shot. The some of the other finishers and media that you can actually put in this is can get a little more expensive. That's the stuff that actually is going to cost you more money than some of these by themselves. The media that I have in here, just to show you again, fills it up about not quite halfway. So the reason that you want to not fill this up too terribly high is because you want to have enough room when this is running so that it has room to roll around. And you'll see this sort of tornado sort of action rolling around with the finishing material. The steel shot should do the same thing. What you'll see is that as you add water slowly but surely to have the right amount of water in here, you'll add water until you see it start to roll as it goes. So you don't want it just to shake, you need it to roll. You don't need it to just rock, you need it to roll. So, so usually we'll add a few drops of something like a nice liquid soap, something like Dawn or Ivory dishwashing detergent works great. Just add a few drops to give it some lubrication. You can buy commercially made ones for burnishing as well, but soap works just great. That works fine. and just start adding enough water as it's running until you see it start to roll around on the surface. And you'll see your pieces get dragged under as it's rolling around. So this one is great for that. Like I said, just make sure you wash it out really thoroughly. Most of the, like this little container of steel shot is actually enough to work in this tumbler. I don't need a whole lot of it. So if you're looking at this and going, oh my gosh, I've got to buy enough steel shot to fill this up, you do not. It does not take that much steel shot or media to actually fill these. In fact, I have split media with people because it's so much media for this little tumbler, I just don't need that much. So that's the tumbler. The other thing that I wanted to share with you though is the pin finisher, because for some people this can be a little intimidating. And the pin finisher, this is a little Speedy Force pin finisher. It is a magnetic pin finisher. So when you turn this on, you set the dial for the amount of time that you want, and you can also adjust the speed. So when I turn this on, it will start the magnets that are inside the base spinning around. And inside this little barrel that's on top, there are tiny little pins that are, like little, let me drag some out of here so you can see them. It's enough where you can see them on camera. There we go. So they're tiny pins, and I don't want to pull them all out because they're wet and used, but these are expensive. But you can see I don't have a lot. I just have enough kind of to cover the bottom of the pin finisher here. There's not a ton of them in there. There is a water level line that tells you how much water goes in here. And I use just a couple of drops of soap in here to help lubricate as it goes around. So I don't ever want to store the barrel on top of the pin finisher. I always want to take it off because it can magnetize the pins and then they no longer spin. Once they are magnetized, they will kind of like not work with the magnets that are in here. So make sure you remove this when it's not in use. This will take about 20 to 30 minutes, polishes really quickly, but because this is going so fast and burnishing the surface, it can get into every nook and cranny. It's great for detail and things like filigree because it's not like physically pounding anything. It's just moving through the water by magnetic force. So it really glides across the surfaces really beautifully. It can finish filigree and pieces and give it inside and out polish. It does a great job. And this I'll use sometimes as a pre-finish when I need to go in and kind of see the surfaces a little bit better so I can edit them in places that may need a little more filing, may need a little more finishing, because that reflective surface will show everything and I can go in and get those little details a little more quickly. So yeah, pin finishers, these are great. The other thing I'll tell you with the steel shot and the pins is that once you're using them, one of the things that happens is the lesser metals like the zinc and tin oxides will come off of your silver, and especially bronze and brass. So when you're doing that, you may find that your pins over time will start to build up a sort of kind of sludgy soot on the surface. To get rid of that, there are a couple of different things you can do. One is something like a steel shot cleaner. And steel shot cleaner works great. You just need like a cap full of this and a big, for a lot of this, in with your water. Let it run for about 20 minutes and just let it clean the shot off. It will strip all that nastiness and the goop off. And I usually will do that. Depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing gold fill or brass and bronze, I'm going to have to do it more often. If I'm using sterling silver a lot, it doesn't happen as often. So I can, after a few hours of working, I can usually take that off pretty easily. The other thing that you can use is Coca-Cola. It works great. There's enough phosphoric acid in the Coca-Cola to strip that material off and leave your shot really clean. With either one of these, once I clean it for a session, I will rinse it off really well, run water through it until it's completely clear, and I will also run it with a little bit of soap just to make sure everything's released before I run anything in it again. The thing that I will tell you is that with the pin finisher or sharp pins that you're using with your mixed shot, there is, especially with the pins for the pin finisher, there is a break-in period, and you're going to have to run this thing for a couple of hours with something to kind of take the points off the ends of these, kind of break it in. So there's a little bit of break-in period. I wouldn't ever want to put anything in the pin finisher that couldn't sit on the bottom. So this one will do, you know, about 5 to 10 rings at a time, big chunky rings. But because my material, my polishing material is only on the bottom, and it's very thin, I really have to make sure that the pieces are able to move along the bottom. So having them any bigger than a couple of inches, like in any dimension where they can sit on the bottom, is going to overload this, and they're not going to tumble properly or move properly. So if I put like a big chunk of cast metal in this thing, it's only going to hit the bottom as it's spinning around. If I've got something wedged in there, it's only going to hit the bottom as it's spinning around. So this isn't great for all purposes. It's not great for everything. You may find that a rotary tumbler or a vibratory tumbler works better for what you're doing if it's a bigger piece. For me, a lot of my smaller pieces are great. I can do a ton of studs in here at a time. I can do a whole bunch of, you know, links and things like that. But it's not great for doing, you know, big pieces. It's impossible to get them in there. So you want to really kind of look at the size of your tumbler when you are, you know, trying to figure out what's going to be best for you. You want to look and see, you know, is it going to like sit properly in the tumbler so it's going to be polished properly. If your media is, you know, all down at the bottom and your piece is lodged up here, it's not going to get polished because nothing's going to touch your piece. So, so make sure that, you know, whatever you're working on, you've got the right finishing program for whatever you're going to be running in it. But yeah, these do have a break-in period. I have seen people put in really beautiful polished or, you know, finished polished flat surfaces into the pin finisher, and because the pins haven't been broken in properly yet, they will pit the surface, which is a problem. You have to go back and like clean the surface again because you've got all these little like flecks on the surface for all the little pins hit it straight on. So you need to kind of break it in using something that is not something you're concerned about, you know, a perfectly flat, smooth surface. If it's an undulating surface or a cast piece that has a lot of detail, this will break in on that really nicely. But, you know, find some stuff that's, you know, a little bit rougher, tougher, tumble stuff that you can put in here and let it run for a while until those pieces break in. And that's what you would do with your pin finisher. Give it some time, clean it up, make sure you're maintaining your pins to get that sludge off, and just keep it fresh and clean. And you'll have good tumbling practices. With the other media, you know, check and really read what the media does, because there are so many different kinds of media that you can put into a vibratory tumbler that will buff, polish. Some of them are coarse and they can deburr things like castings, but not all of them are designed to polish. Some of them are designed to do like a sanding across the surface and take off all the roughness. Some of them are designed to do kind of a pre-finish, and some of them are designed to do like a really high shine. The high shine stuff is not going to be aggressive enough to take off stuff and sand it down. So you kind of have to really look at the media that you want to use, what you're going to use it for, and it may not always be your final finish on something. It may be something that's like a pre-finish, and then you finish by hand with your flex shaft or your buffing machine. So it really kind of depends on what you're using it for. But kind of, you know, educate yourself, do some reading, look at the catalogs, look at Rio's website if you want, and kind of really familiarize yourself with what the different medias do. There, unfortunately, is not like one perfect media that solves everybody's problem. But the closest thing to that for a lot of people is just steel shot and a rotary tumbler, and it works really well. And that's a great place to start for most people. I hope this was helpful, and take a look at some of the classes that are coming up. We've got some great guest artists that are going to be teaching some classes coming up. We've got some fun things coming up in May and June this year. So take a look and see what we've got. And if you missed any of the tool tips, you can see them on Instagram, or all of our past ones are here on YouTube. And if you have any questions, be sure to email us at littlelittleclasses@gmail.com, or visit our website and check all that out. And if you are interested in getting something from someplace like Lion Punch Forge, tools, we have discount codes and affiliate codes for a lot of different people. So check out the student resources, and you'll see things like our partners that we have discounts with, and you go use those discounts and get some tools and stuff that you need for your studio. And I hope this was helpful. Sign up for some classes and get some more details, and we hope you all have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye, you guys. Thanks for joining.